How's it going, YouTube? Sushi here. Today, bringing you guys another Digimon card game match. It will be myself on the right, piloting the Cherubimon purple hybrids with the yellow base, and my opponent, if you can see their hand a little bit right there, they are playing the purple hybrid with the purple base. So you get a little bit of a feel on how each one feels. I think this is the first time my opponent for piloting the deck, and me, on the other hand, I had kind of a bricky hand at the start, if you couldn't see. But anyway, so jumping into the first game, we're going to go ahead and start off with Digivolve a Cutemon and then Hard Slam a Lowymon. At this point, I'm pretty sure my hand was 2 or 3 Lowymon, a Cutemon, and like 1 other level 4 hybrid. So I couldn't possibly mulligan this hand, because if I did, I was losing out on pretty much all of my level 4. So I was kind of forced to keep this hand, even though it is almost unplayable. But so we hard slam the Lowymon, and it looks like our opponent also has a little bit of a tough times too. They end up doing Kari followed by a Lowymon. I swing it with my Cutemon. It lives, checking another Kari. My opponent does suspend their other Kari, gaining a little bit of memory off of that. I will Digivolve up. This is where you can see I had plenty of level 4 hybrids in my hand. I'll Digivolve up into 2 Jaeger Leomons just to get a little bit more cycle, maybe try to find a little bit something else. I know I'm now wasted much of my level 4 hybrids, but I did need to get a little bit of cycle. Swinging in, it does survive to a Gazimon check. My opponent does end up using the other TK Kari, or the other Kari I should say, passing them back over to 1. So here my opponent does get the rookie. They do Digivolve back there into the Lopmon. Has the inheritable when you play a Tamer, I believe you can gain a memory. And they swing over the Cutemon with the Lowymon just to kind of get the body off board. Passing the memory back over to me by Digivolving into the Eismon. Really unfortunate not to have the scatter mode. I will Digivolve into the Salamon on the back, swing over the Lowymon just not to have to deal with it, and play a Mimi. This is BT7 Mimi, I believe, where if you play an option card, you can suspend it to gain a memory. Here I'm not as worried, unless he can't really go into anything without a scatter mode and trash. This Eismon doesn't quite get over my Jaeger Lowymon, and it does have retaliation at this point. No, actually, no, it does not. I correct myself. And the Eismon swings in. Fortunately for me, does hit a Koichi. Here I draw and discard, chunking out one of the other Lowymons. I definitely don't want to have any more of these in hand, and I can recycle them back. So they are nice to have, but it's pretty easy to recycle them back with things like Matt and things like Calling from the Darkness if I use them. So here they just pass their turn over, passing me over to 3 by playing out the scatter mode and putting me over to 3 memory. Like I said, I will go ahead and Blinding Ray to get a little bit more cycle. This activates my Salamon and activates the Upamon underneath. So I go up to 5 memory. I decide not to suspend the Mimi for the extra memory. I decide I don't really need it. I'll swing in with the Jaeger. It will die, but I will swing in with the Salamon getting the draw, and it unfortunately lives. It does hit the Dead or Alive out of security, which does not activate. He does not have any level 5s in trash, and he doesn't have 10 to play out the Lucamon quite yet. So here at this point, I am at 2 memory. He did suspend both Karis, losing basically a little bit more memory to work with. Probably should have suspended the Mimi, but that's neither here or there. It stops them from doing anything. Maybe if I'm able to choke them a little bit lower. I Digivolve the Koichi into another Kaiser Leomon, swinging over the Eismon just to get rid of it. This does trigger the Demi Marimon, and he will discard the fall down mode off of that effect. And then I decide to pass my opponent back over to 2 with the Bokomon, grabbing a Tamer and a Hybrid, setting up for further plays. They do only have 1 security, so unless they can really deal with my board constantly with something like another Hybrid to maybe clear over the Salamon and maybe crash with the Kaiser Leomon, I'm pretty good state to possibly win this turn, especially if I have another Hybrid in hand. I may have already wasted them though, and discarding that Lowymon could come back to bite me in the butt. So here, since I am threatening lethal, my opponent does decide to swing over the Salamon with the scatter mode. That way they can get the body off the field. It does trigger the Salamon's ability to recover since I am at 3 security, and they will go ahead and use Deathclaw to pop their scatter mode here. We're just trying to make sure we do things in the correct order, letting my opponent know which target he's going to delete. He does decide to delete the Bokomon. I will suspend the Mimi at this point just to gain a memory. This pretty much keeps my Kaiser Leomon safe unless he has something like a Jack Raid. If you can kind of see his hand there, it looks like he's pretty option heavy. So here he discards another Dead or Alive and a Lucamon off of the scatter modes effect. So he does, I think he's here counting CPS 10 and trash. Probably thinking about playing one of those Dead or Alives. If you look at his hand, he does have a Hybrid, but it doesn't quite do enough for him. And if I do have another Hybrid in hand, it does probably just seal the game for him, passing me over to 2 memory. He does have the Kari, so that might be able to help, but he's already seen Blinding Ray, so maybe he fears another Blinding Ray. So here, my opponent does give me quite a bit of memory. They drop the Dead or Alive, looking what they want to have. I don't believe at this point, I can't really remember if they have tenor in trash. He probably does. He might. If he's not, he's a little short, and he does decide to play the fall down mode. Trying to decide what he wants to target. I believe he ends up targeting the Mimi just to basically, either option pretty much clears my board and keeps him safe for another turn unless I have something like a Bushiagumon, which at this point I'm pretty sure my hand is very light on my yellow rookies. I didn't see a whole lot of them, 2 or 3 in my hand. So here I decided to get rid of the board. I'll Digivolve the Patamon and back, but I will Shores. I do have a hybrid, so I can take out the Lucamon. He is a level 5, and the Shores effect is for every hybrid and tamer. You get to delete level 5 or lower. And then I will swing the Koichi in. I will lose 2 memory off of the Kari that he activates, but I will gain a memory since the Koichi does die to the Rebellion. And here I pretty much guarantee game. I decided to go ahead and drop the mat. I did possibly have a Rihimon, so if I would have Digivolved into the Rihimon, I could have played this mat and kept my opponent a little bit less memory, but you live and you learn. So the mat does still grab me back the Jaeger Leomon and keeps me pretty much solidified for game unless he drops something else like a Lucamon, because I do have the Patamon in the back. So here my opponent goes for a little bit of cycle. They Digivolve the Lowymon on top of one of the Karis. The Karis don't really do much anymore unless he's able to recover up. Digivolving the Tapermon in the back, and then here setting up a Rebellimon for a blocker just out of good faith. He decides what he wants to discard, does discard the Eismon. This does activate his effect since he has a scatter mode in trash, able to play out the Eismon. And then here, he already knows I have the Jaeger Leomon in hand, so I swing in with the Patamon. It gets blocked, of course, but then I Digivolve. I do end up having another Lowymon in hand as well, swinging for game, taking game 1, even with that bricky starting hand. So on to game 2, my opponent does decide at this point to opt to go first. You can see they have a little bit of a better hand. They have a couple of Koichis, they have a rookie in hand, so a little bit of a better starting hand instead of just a bunch of options or just the hybrids in hand like last time. So here, I'm kind of a little suspect on this play. Instead of playing something out like a Koichi or something like that, he decides to go ahead and Digivolve up into the Lowymon, passing me over to 2. This does memory choke me, but if I have something like a Koichi or another 3-cost tamer in hand, it does give me the ability to memory choke him back at 1 memory, which is exactly what I do. I Digivolve into the Salamon, play the Koichi, trashing the Lucamon. Sorry for the little cut there. I did have a judge call I had to take. I do judge at my locals at the same time, but we do like to play, so every now and then there'll be little cuts like that as I have to go help out. But anyway, so like I said, we'll discard the Lucamon. This pretty much sets it up for like Cherubimon plays in the future if we can ever get there. And passing him back over to 1, he will raise, swing in with the Lowymon. It does hit the Schwarz insecurity. Since I do have a tamer, it will delete that Lowymon, triggering the effect of Demimera to draw and discard, discarding the Lucamon. So here I'm looking like in a pretty good point. I got a Salamon and raising. I do have 4 security, so if I have something like a Blinding Ray, I can potentially push for a little bit more draw power and another recover with a Koichi in back, and my opponent did have a clear board. They do decide to play the Kari. It's always good to get Kari set up pretty early. That way you can kind of stop your opponent from maybe wanting to swing a few times, and but at this point I have the Analog Boy in hand, as you can see, so I go ahead and drop it down, passing me over to 1 memory. My opponent over to 1 memory after the TK Kari is pretty strong. Here I decide to take the Kaiser Leomon. It's pretty good to just have it in hand. I know I can recycle it, and I think at this point I'm missing a rookie, but I still want to go ahead and have the Kaiser Leomon so I can have an option to go into. And then my opponent will go ahead on their turn, Digivolve the Lopmon and drop a Koichi, drawing and discarding another Koichi, setting up that trash for their tamers for future Cherubimon plays for themselves possibly. Here, since I don't have a rookie, I just decided to go ahead and play the mat, trying to decide what I want to take back. I do decide to go ahead and take the Shores, just in case the board gets a little wide, hard for me to deal with. It's nice to have the Shores. I do have quite a few tamers set up, so I can possibly make use of that. I do whiff on the rookie, like I said, and decide not to take the Patamon, so I don't have anything in raising. So my opponent will raise up the Lopmon, trying to think about what they have. If you can see their hand, they don't quite have any level 4s. Few options, a few level 5 Digimon, so they will swing the Lopmon in. Probably hoping for it to die so they can get a little bit of cycle with the Demimeramon. Unfortunately for them, drawing into another Dead or Alive. It's quite a few Dead or Alives in the deck. That's at least 2. There might potentially be 3. We saw several in hand and 1 come out of security, I believe, at the last game. So here they will discard the Antilamon and just decide to go ahead and play down the Koichi, get a little bit more cycle, drawing and discarding. It looks like going back and forth between the Calling or a Dead or Alive, and do decide to go for the Calling. Now, if I were my opponent, I'd probably keep the Calling, because then that lets me recycle something out of trash. There doesn't have to be a target to delete to resolve the rest of Calling's effect, just as future note. But he does discard it, passing the turn over to me. I will have the Digivolve my Koichi into the Lowymon. I do decide to go ahead and swing in. I probably should, if I had a Rihimon, I don't know if I had a Rihimon in this hand, but that would have been a good point to Digivolve into that, because it would have let me replay it out, but I'm guessing at this point I didn't. That's probably game 1. I think I grabbed one right off of there. When I play the Pokemon, passing my opponent back over to 2 memory, this sets me up for a pretty good next turn if I had a Rookie in Raising, but I'm still a little bit shy on the Rookie, but it does let me go into my mat for a little bit cheaper and possibly get some more cycle. I believe I did, like I said, grab the Rihimon, so if I can go ahead, go up to the Rihimon, if I have a Cherubimon in hand, maybe set up some plays for the following turns. So here on my opponent's turn, they do Digivolve to the Gazimon and back. They have the Gazimon. It's kind of a rough thing for this deck sometimes. We do have a little bit of memory gain and some stuff like Koichi's effect that get negated, so it is good to kind of get rid of those. But unfortunately for my opponent, he does whiff on the Rookie, or on the level 4, so he just has to hard drop the Antilamon, passing me back over to 4 memory. So at this point, I'm trying to decide what I want to do. I do decide to Digivolve the mat into the Kaiser Leomon. The memory will effectively stay the same. I will stay at 4 memory because I will gain and then draw off of and gain the memory back off the Pokemon. I will Digivolve into the Rihimon, as I mentioned that I grabbed earlier. This gives me a little bit more cycle. Here I'm trying to decide if I want to go into the Cherubimon or if I want to just cycle out the Tamer again, hope to die in security. But it seems like a pretty good play to go ahead and Digivolve into the Cherubimon. That sets up another Tamer for a future turn, and it doesn't quite clear the board because Antilamon is a level 5, but it does have it set up. I believe I have a Deathclaw in hand at this point, so if he does decide to commit anything else to the board, then I can delete it with Cherubimon's at the same time with a Deathclaw, cycling out some of the rookies that are in my trash. So on my opponent's turn, they will go ahead and raise up the Gazimon. This pretty much shuts down my Pokemon, so it's something I'm going to have to answer if I want to go ahead and get the free Evo off of the Koichi or something like that. And here, if you can kind of see, my opponent isn't quite in the best spot. They're missing on their level 4s. They're also missing on a Cherubimon or any other level 6. They have a pretty option-clogged heavy hand and one Kari. Here, they'll swing in with the Antilamon. It will live to the Lowimon check. Trying to debate on what they want to do. You can see him kind of hovering over the Deathclaw, maybe thinking about trying to delete the Bokomon. Can't really do anything about the Cherubimon being a level 6. It's kind of hard for this deck to deal with sometimes unless you take in something like Fly Bullet. But here, instead of deciding to go ahead and play it, they will swing in with the Gazimon, just trying to see what they check. It does, in fact, live to a Blinding Ray. And here, I would think the best play probably would have been my opponent to deal with the Bokomon and then play the Kari, but they do decide to just go ahead and play the Kari. This chokes me at 2 memory. That way, if I swing in with something into security, they can suspend both of them to stop, gain 2 memory and put me at 0. But here, instead of swinging into security, I don't quite have game. I decide to go ahead, swing over the Antilamon, and then use the effect, or then use Deathclaw to pop the Gazimon when I pop the Cherubimon. This clears the board of all of the stuff on his side of the field, and because I'm able to play out the Patamon and then the Lucemon, you trigger the order effect in whichever order you choose. The Patamon will recover 1, the Lucemon will recover another 1. This puts me at 3. This does actually activate the BBmon that I have in trash. It, as bad as BBmon is, it can effectively come up, but because the Gazimon's off the field, I will be able to Digivolve the Lowimon or the Koichi into a Kaiser Leomon into a Rebellimon. This does choke my opponent at 1 memory. It does give me a little bit more cycle. I am able to put the Bushi in trash for follow-up plays if I do have to go for more turns. I don't know if I have a Cherubimon or not in this hand, and it does choke my opponent at just 1 memory. So here my opponent does have to worry about me having lethal on board. I do have 4 bodies on board with the Cutemon in Raising, so I have potential 5 swings the following turn. So here the best thing they can really do is to choke me at 1 memory since I don't have a memory tamer, which they do by Digivolving in the Raising to the Eismon. So here over at 1 with the 2 Karis on field, I am potentially not quite have lethal, but as I mentioned before, I'm exactly at 3 security, so BBmon is live with 5 swings on board. I just have to really hope that he's not got no way to effectively clear my board when I swing it. So I swing it with the Cutemon, gain the memory off the BBmon. First check is a Cherubimon, so I will die. Here he will suspend both of the Karis to gain 2 memory, so I'll be at 0. I'll swing in with the Patamon, it dies. I'll swing in with the Lucemon. He does hit the Deathclaw out of security, but unfortunately for him, I do have 1 more swing, so I swing in with the Rebellimon for the last check of the game. BBmon coming in clutch for not being the baby you always want to see. Sometimes it is the baby you need to see to win the games, either a little bit faster or to get that last little extra bit of memory to choke out. But anyway, guys, that's it for the match. I'm trying to find a few other matches, some of them quick, some of them longer, but just to not have as much blue on the channel. I know a lot of people do enjoy blue, but a lot of people are getting tired of seeing blue up in the final tables, and I am trying to avoid just having blue on the channel. I did play a bunch of blue. I still play blue, but I'm going to try not to have it flood the channel because I know it gets a little tiring to watch a whole bunch of blue content. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching till the end of the video. If you did enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like, comment down below if you have any other questions, any other types of videos you want to see, maybe some matchups I can possibly get on the channel, and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy. We will be having more gameplay videos, more deck profile videos, and some more ruling videos. I have a few of those still in the works that I'm going to try to get out to you guys. But all that being said, thank you guys for watching again, and I'll see you next time.